Hello, and welcome along to this video, which is a series of videos regarding the setup and installation of the Chocolatey Quick Deployment environment in the version 2 version of that environment. So in the series of videos so far, we have got a working instance of QDE in VMware Fusion on my machine. We have done the initial setup and installation of QDE using the environment setup script. We have looked at the setup and configuration of Nexus. So what we're going to look at next is the initial setup and configuration of Jenkins. So first of all, what is Jenkins and why do we use it? So Jenkins is a CI/CD platform. It's typically used for doing build automation. So if you're writing an application, you would use something like Jenkins for doing the build, the packaging, the publishing of that application. Why we're using it within the context of QDE is because Jenkins is also very good at automating tasks. So what we're going to set it up with is the ability to automatically internalize packages from our community repository, our Chocolatey community repository, because in an organizational context, we don't necessarily recommend using the Chocolatey community repository because once you start doing installations from on lots of different machines, you might run into rate limiting that is in place within the community repository, and also there's a concept of multiple repeated downloads of the actual application installers. So having to re-download those every time. Instead, what we recommend is using the commercial feature, which is package internalizer. So you would use perhaps Chocolatey community repository as a initial source of that package. It will then download and internalize all of those application installers, recreate that Chocolatey package, and then that is what gets pushed up into your Nexus repository. And that's the thing that will then work when in a completely offline environment, that package will now be able to be installed on any of your machines. So that's why we're using Jenkins. So what we're going to look at here is the initial setup that needs to be done in order to get Jenkins running. So I'm just going to zoom in here a little bit again so we can see it. So the initial password that's set up for Jenkins is this one, and the username is admin. So I'm just going to walk over here and I'm going to paste in that initial password into here. And I'm going to click continue. I'm going to say never up here. Now, what Jenkins is going to do is there's some initial setup in terms of the plugins that need to be set up on a Jenkins machine. So you're going to be prompted for, do you want to install the suggested plugins or do you want to select from a list? So for what I'm going to use here, I'm going to use the the default suggested list of plugins. Now, what we've found as we've been going through this is that some of these plugins will fail to install. Now, I personally don't fully understand why they fail to install, but they also haven't stopped me from doing anything within Jenkins for what I'm using it for. Now, it could be that some of the other functionality that you can do within Jenkins may be prevented from working because of those failed installations, but for how we use it within the QDE environment, the failed plugins installations haven't caused any problems. So I just wanted to mention that before we go into that too far. Now, this process does take a little bit of time, so I'm going to pause this recording and I'll come back when these plugin installations have completed. Okay, so the installation of those plugins has now completed. As I mentioned, some of those have failed to install. Even if you try them again, they still remain failed. So, but like I say, from terms of how we use QDE, I haven't seen any problems with it not being able to complete. So I'm going to go ahead and click continue. And it asks here for setting up a first admin user. I'm going to leave the one that we've currently got, which is just the name of the admin. The username is just admin, and I'm going to say continue as admin. And then in here, again, if you have changed the host name of the QDE machine, this would be your opportunity to change it so it reflects that. So I'm going to say that I'm going to leave that as is, and I'm just going to say save and finish. So Jenkins is almost ready, but it needs to be restarted. So I'm going to go ahead and let that restart. What that's going to do is it's going to reboot or restart the Windows service that is Jenkins in the background. And then after a period of time, I might just prod it there. I've just hit a refresh. It will come back, and what you'll be prompted to do is to log in again. So let's wait for this to complete, and this page should go away when the reboot is complete. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this password again, because we're going to need this one more time. And let's just see if we can refresh that. There we go. So I'm going to use admin and the password that I just copied. So in terms of initial setup and configuration of Jenkins, let's just zoom in a little bit here so that we can all see it again. The first thing is I want to change that default password to be something else. So if you click on people here and click on admin and then click on configure, we should have the opportunity down here to change the password to something else. So I'm going to say that, and I'm going to click save. You'll be immediately logged out and you'll have to log back in again. Okay, so that's just changed that one. In terms of the initial setup and configuration, again, all three of these jobs are disabled by default. So if you plan on using these jobs, which I will as part of this video series of videos, I'm going to go ahead and click enable in each of those so that they are ready to be run. Enabled there. And the last thing that we need to do is there's a little bit of individual configuration on each of these jobs. And if I click on the first one here and then look at configure, then the initial install of Jenkins used the default API key that was included in the this here. So this Nexus API key was also set up and used within the Jenkins configuration as well. So now this API key within this configuration is wrong because we changed that API key. So this is why I put it into the notepad for later. So I'm going to go on that first job, I'm going to click on change password, and I'm going to input the new API key and hit save. And I'm going to do that for each of the jobs. So here's the second one. I'm going to click on configure. I'm going to scroll until I find the API key parameter, which is this one. I'm going to delete it and I'm going to paste in the new one. And then for the last job there, I'm going to click on configure, and this one here, I'm going to click change password. And from there, I'm going to paste in the new one and hit save. So that is the initial setup and configuration of Jenkins for QDE. We've changed the password of the logged in user, we have enabled the jobs, and then we have changed the API key to match the one that's currently being used. Now, I do have another video which is part of the Chocolatey organizational use series that I have, and I'll put a link to that in the description, which will walk through how to use these jobs in the context of organizational use of Chocolatey. Now, it shouldn't be too far removed from the QDE setup, but that will walk through what each of these jobs are, what they're used for, and how you can use it within this setup here. Okay, so if there's any questions on that, feel free to reach out. For now though, that is the Jenkins configuration setup. The last thing that we need to do is the setup of CCM. So let's just have a quick check of the documentation to make sure that we didn't miss anything. So in terms of Jenkins, it was login, first time setup, change the password, and enable the pre-configured job. So we've done everything that we need to do there. So for now, that's it, and I'll see you in the next video.